my pleasure. Thank you for the introduction, ma'am. I'm really happy to be speaking to everyone today. And yeah, I would definitely, I'm glad I'm awake for this. I hope I can teach everyone something. So I'll just share my screen. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so today my presentation is on creating your professional brand online. A lot of us have more free time at home than expected. So, you know, with our laptops, which most of us have, why not use that time to do something productive? So today I will be talking about, I'll be going over a general technical resume, how to do a cover letter, how to have a good LinkedIn profile, how to conduct informational interviews, and other resources. So you might be asking yourself, why am I qualified to talk about this? Or how come someone who's 20 years old is also eligible to talk to you about resumes and things like that? Well, I am in my 4th year studying biomedical engineering. My bachelor's of science and engineering at Arizona State University. I am a peer career coach at the Fulton Engineering Career Center for the past 2 years, where I've helped hundreds of students go over resumes, cover letters, interview prep, you know, tailoring their resume to a specific job position. I'm a mentor to first-generation engineering college students. I'm a teaching assistant for an engineering course, and I also got interviews with the biggest med tech company in the United States and globally, actually. And Arizona State University is the biggest university in the United States, and so this company, Medtronic, that I currently intern for, only accepted 10 people to interview with, and for me to have gotten that in my 2nd and 3rd year was a really huge accomplishment for me. So yeah, I've spent a lot of time going over resumes and how to market yourself. Now that we have such a large online presence, it's really important to create this professional brand. And even if you're an engineer, or even if you don't think of yourself as a people person, or, you know, very talkative or very outgoing, it's really important to still have that professional brand to yourself. So that's what this presentation is all about, and I hope everyone can learn something. So why is a good resume important? You prove that you're qualified for a particular job. You prove that you care about that job. It represents your ability to communicate, which is really huge. And it's a tool that human resources and hiring leaders use to sort out good candidates from the bad candidates. And it's a way for you to market yourself on one piece of paper. You know, you can be really technically adept, and you can be really good at coding, and you can have all these amazing technical skills, but if you don't know how to, you know, make yourself look good on a resume, or if you don't know how to market yourself, or display your skills, or talk about your experiences and the things you know in an effective way, then people will never realize how valuable you are. So I'm sure all of you have amazing technical skills and things that you can really bring to a company, and a resume is an excellent way for you to showcase that and prove that, you know, you're worth it, you're a great candidate, and you can effectively contribute to this company as well as learn from it. So a good resume is really important. I know a lot of company positions can receive, even just applying online, they can receive thousands and thousands of resumes and thousands of candidates. So it's really important to make your resume stick out when, you know, there's an online application, or even if you're handing out a resume in person. It's really important to market yourself. And, you know, you may be the best candidate, but if you don't market yourself effectively, you may fall short in getting the position. So it's really important to market yourself. So I'll get into the details of the general technical resume. Basics, it should be pleasing to the eye and the reader. It should include the skills that they're looking for from the job description. It should only be 1 page, evenly and properly formatted, and it shouldn't contain false statements. I know someone who put in their skills, they said that they knew Spanish, and that was a lie. And then they got to the interview and they decided to conduct it in Spanish, and this guy didn't know how to move forward. So definitely don't contain false statements. Don't say you know how to use a coding language if you don't really know that language. That may be the reason they hire you, and then you go to the job and you're stuck. So there are ways of portraying, there are ways of, you know, making yourself still seem like a good candidate by saying, I'm not an expert at this topic, but I still know the basics of this topic, and I'll show you how to do that. So hiring managers also spend on average 6 seconds looking at a resume. So they just scan it from top to bottom. So 6 seconds, that's not that much time. So it's important to make it count. It's important to make it stick out and be really easy to read. So this is an example format. Arizona State University publishes this sample resume online, and I will show you guys how to find it. I helped create this resume as well, so I'm using it for this presentation because I think it's really helpful. There's actually 2 different types of general resumes. There is a computer science resume, and which is you know, a lot more technical in a sort because of all your languages, and you have to get more technical on a CS resume. But then the other engineering resume, like mechanical, civil, biomedical, all that, it's not that much different. So for this presentation, I'll be using the computer science resume, but there's not that much differences. So as you can see from top to bottom, you have your name, and you right under your contact information, you have your summary. The summary is often overlooked, but it is, in my opinion, it is the most important part of the resume. You have your education, your technical skills, and then you have typically 3 big categories depending on what you have. So that could be professional experience, relevant projects, and research if you do research. Or if you don't do research and you have work experience, like you work at a shop, or you work at an ice cream shop or something like that. Those are still important experiences, and that can also go on your resume. And then lastly is extracurricular experience if you're in any clubs, in your university, or anything like that.
Aarya,
so I'll be going through this.
Aarya, can I interrupt you?
Yes.
If you can go a bit slow.
Oh, okay. Okay, totally.
Okay.
I'll do that. My mistake. So yeah, I'll be going through this resume from top to bottom. So setting up right over here, I have the computer science level. That's where your name should be. So it would be, for me, Aarya Mecwan, and you want that to be the biggest and the boldest font. You want that to stick out. You don't want your name to disappear in a pile of, you know, hundreds of resumes. So that's really important. I typically do about size 16 font, and then the rest of it I would do like maybe 12 size font. Your address is not recommended if you want to relocate or anything like that. You don't want to necessarily restrict yourself to one address. Resumes are also public information technically, so you wouldn't want your address to be public. Sometimes you can put your city name if you're looking for work in that city or that state, but you don't want to do your exact address. I see that sometimes. You want to have a professional email, like, you know, you don't want to do like 35chocolatelover@gmail.com. Like, that was one of my emails this once, and you can't put that on your resume. A link to your LinkedIn or your GitHub or a website if you have one. Overall font 10 to 12, margins 0.25 to 1 inches, and you use lines to separate it from clarity since there's so much information there. The lines are really important for separating and to make it easier for hiring managers to read. And then you also want to have uniform dates. Okay, so next is your summary. And I believe the summary is the most important part of a resume. Here is where you state what type of engineer you are. How many years of experience do you have? What industry are you targeting? What is your specialization, or what's your passion, and what are your core competencies? And really, it's like your story. So here in a technical resume, your summary, even though it's just maybe 1 to 2 to 3 lines, this is where you can talk about yourself and talk about like why you're in this field in the first place. And when hiring managers are looking at a resume, if they're looking for, say, like a civil engineer with experience and so, they don't want to have to read all the way to the middle of the page to find out, oh, this person's computer science, you know, I don't need him. Or, oh, this person doesn't have the qualifications that I'm looking for, or he's too young, or anything like that. You want to put everything that the hiring manager would know about you right in the summary. So for me, for example, I would put biomedical engineering senior with internship experience in software development, because that's my specialty, and passionate about innovation in healthcare, or something like that. So depending on the field, like, are you interested in healthcare? Are you interested in cybersecurity? Are you interested in machine learning? Anything like that. This is where you can really say, this is what I'm interested in. And one thing to note is that when you're applying to a lot of different companies, you want to make this broad. You don't want to be applying to like a healthcare company saying, oh, I'm only interested in cybersecurity. You want to keep it broad. And then if you're applying to a specific company and you know what they do, in that case, you can tailor it to that company. So they immediately see the summary and know, okay, like this person is interested in what this company is about. So that's why I think like the summary is also the easiest part to change when applying to multiple companies. And what I would also do is I just say, for the company I'm applying to, I just put their name in the summary. And I say, like, I am actively looking for an internship or pursuing an internship at Google or Medtronic or Facebook, whatever company it is, and I hand them that resume. So it just shows that I care a little bit more. Education. So you always include your cumulative GPA. That's extremely important. I know a lot of people don't put their GPA, and if you don't, companies or hiring managers will assume the worst. They'll think, why did this person not put their GPA on? Do they have a really bad score or something like that? So typically you always want to include your GPA. This 3.82, this is the American GPA, so I know yours is out of 10, but you always want to keep it on there. Your expected graduation, if you have a bachelor's in science or a bachelor's of science in engineering, then your school name, and then awards name. And it's important to note that your major is more important than anything else. You don't always want to put the school name first, because what you studied is more important. So you want to make that bold and big and at the very front. Okay, next is technical skills. So these are the technical skills that you've utilized in your projects or have learned in your spare time, in courses, or in classes, or anything that you've used. You can put this here. Any certifications you might have gotten, and you can separate it into programming languages, front end, tools, databases. And I know for like mechanical engineers, you'll have like SolidWorks or MATLAB or things like that. Like you can do modeling software or CAD software, or you can separate it appropriately. Something that you can also do is, for example, if you are really strong in you're really strong with programming in Java, but you're not good at, say, Python, you can put a section saying, I'm proficient in Java, but I've only been exposed to Python. So this way, you're not promising like I can code really well in Python, but you're saying I've been exposed to it, I've worked with it, I know the basics. But this distinction also tells the employer, oh, they were comfortable enough to say they've only been exposed to Python, but that means that they're really good at Java. So it can make that distinction for you. So, or you can just do everything worked with. And that's also not necessarily like committing or stating how well you really know every single language. Okay, so before we move on to experiences, something that is really important is the STAR method and accomplishment statements. So you can utilize the STAR method when you are talking about any experience, or let's say you're in an interview and they ask you a question and you want to talk about an experience, you can also use the STAR method. So it stands for situation, task, action, and result. So for me, for example, for my internship at Medtronic this summer, if I were to talk to my project about someone, I would say, okay, situation, the engineers on my team who are developing the algorithm for the diabetes sensor they're creating need a more efficient tool to make annotations of their sensor plots and to share that amongst one another. So they need a more efficient way of collaborating those notes with each other. It's sort of like, Google Docs when you write an essay and you make comments and edits, and then you share it with your friend. They want to do that, but for sensor plots with patient data. So that's a situation. So my task was to devise an enhanced tool with all desired features to maximize efficiency and the ease of use for the engineers who are relying on the tool to make data-driven decisions for their algorithm. My action was I used Python and MATLAB and various libraries to create this tool to launch on the web browser. and I gathered desired features from colleagues to implement those. And then the result is I built an efficient tool to replace the older tool used by 20 engineers and fosters more frequent and easier collaboration of notes on plots. Something that is really valuable to hiring managers is if you can quantify your success. For example, if you're saying, I wrote an algorithm or I wrote a code that I automated something, you can say it executed 20 seconds faster than originally. Or if you were, volunteering and you made care packages, you can say I assembled 50 more care packages per hour. So having that reasonable but good number really shows hiring managers like this person contributed, this person alone made a difference, no matter what it is. So if you can quantify your result, that can be really, really beneficial, and that's a really strong way to write down your experiences. Accomplishment statements are also really important individually. A typical non-descriptive resume statement could be followed up with customers, but an improved one would be initiated discussion of new product information during routine follow-up calls with customers, resulting in 20 additional sales the first month. So as you can see, that's way more impressive. They're kind of saying the same thing, but they're saying a lot more, and they quantified their success, and that looks really good. You can also see that they used a really good action verb, initiated. That's really strong, and that's actually something that is really, really important, is starting off all your sentences with action verbs. So instead of saying like, I worked in a team to do this, you can say, I assembled this, or I applied this, or I engineered or fabricated, or things like that. And this action list verb is also available on the Arizona State University career site, which I will show you guys how to access. But it's free and it's completely comprehensive, and I use it for my resume and I recommend it to everyone. So I highly recommend using action verbs and making your statements active rather than passive. Okay, so getting into the sections, professional experience. You want to put your most relevant experiences at the top, but you still want to make it chronological. So you want to bold your position, you put your date, location, the name of the company, and professional experience is usually internships. Internships are increasingly common and really, really important to get, especially for engineers these days. Internships are really important to get during summers or breaks like that. So that would go in professional experience. Most managers also only skim the first 1/3 of resumes. So that includes your name, summary, education, technical skills, and maybe 1 or 2 experiences. So you want to give them a reason to keep on reading. Like you want to pick a really good first experience and you want them to think, oh, this person has really good experiences. Let me see what else they have. One mistake a lot of people also make is they don't actually talk about what they did at that experience. They talk about maybe what the company does or what their team does, but you're supposed to talk about your individual contributions. Even if you worked with others, you want to talk about the role that you played in the company. Relevant projects is next. So a lot of people don't get internships. A lot of people may interview, but they're not qualified enough, or something like that. But with relevant projects, you can put personal projects and you can put school projects or class projects. I know someone who built his own skateboard and he gave it a motor and everything. And that actually was an amazing personal project because it used all the mechanical engineering techniques. So that looked really good. There are a lot of people who create their own website, who completely code it from scratch. There are people who design apps. So anything you do, even in your free time, that can be a really great project to add in the relevant project section of your resume. Additionally, you can put final projects from class or any other school projects. That looks really great on your resume. So a lot of people think like, oh, I don't have an internship, or I don't have this official opportunity, and they think, oh, I don't have like material for my resume. But actually, you probably have more material than you think you have. It's just up to you to dig back into what you've done and find a way to put that on paper. And a lot of people also think that, this experience isn't good enough to put on my resume. but a lot of skills are transferable, and in work experience, for example, this isn't necessarily tech related. Like you can be a teaching assistant, or you can work at the grocery store, or you can work at a bike shop or something like that. But those skills are just as important. You can be a really great programmer, but if you don't know how to talk to people, and if you don't have people skills, and you can't show that you can work in a team, you can have responsibilities, you're good at customer service, things like that, you might as well, your ability to code really well might not get you as far as it could if you also have those interpersonal skills. So having this work experience is also extremely important. And even though it's not tech related, it shows like you can handle responsibility and work with others. So this goes at the bottom. And then lastly, extracurriculars. It shows that you can balance other things in addition to school. It allows you to show a little bit of personality, and it could be like coding club, or it could be something like that. It can definitely be on the more technical side, or it can be, for me, it could be I wrote poetry for 10 years and I've been publishing it, or I've been playing this instrument, or something like that. Those things also show, a bit of personality. Or, if you're in an interview, your hiring manager could have something in common with you and you can talk about it, and it could be an icebreaker. So those definitely shouldn't take up more space. Like, only include those if you have space, and if you are running out of space, that's the first thing to go. But if you do have space, you can definitely include extracurriculars. So the big takeaways for your general technical resume is formatting is very important. Managers don't spend that much time looking unless something catches their eye. So allowing them to really skim is really important. And that's why the lines to separate all your sections can be really valuable. Use correct capitalization. So properly capitalize your name. Capitalize the first letter of your name and your last name. Have good spelling, proofread, spell check your resume, order it by relevance. You don't want to have a resume and the top thing is something you did 5 years ago. Then they're gonna say, what have you been doing for the past 5 years? So you want to put your most recent, but still your most relevant, assuming your project should be getting more relevant the older you get. So order by relevance. Use bullet points for faster reading. Don't do paragraphs. People don't want to read that because when you only have so much time. So definitely use bullet points, and then use those action verbs and use the star method to talk about your experience, and show, don't tell. One thing I see in a lot of resumes is people putting in their skills section like, oh, I'm a great worker, or I'm a really great I'm really loyal, or I'm a really hard worker. Well, show that. Like, talk about an experience where you've been working at this company for a whole year and you've done all these projects and you've been promoted. Or show that you can handle multiple projects at once and still be able to balance your grades and do all these projects. Don't say, I'm a hard worker, or I'm empathetic and I'm a good listener. Prove and show that you are a good team member, and that you're a good leader, and that you're a strong future engineer, and that you would be an asset to their company. Discuss technical skills in your experience section. So I also see a lot of resumes where people put all these languages in their skills. They'll say, I'm good at Python and C++ and MATLAB and everything like that. And I'll say, well, where on your resume does it say that? Like, which experiences did you use Python for? Or which experience did you use MATLAB for? Like, tell me about it. If I see that you have Python, I want to see, how did you implement that Python? Or what did you use it for? What did you create with it? So be sure to do that. And tailor your resume to every single job. So that's easiest done by changing the summary and including the company name, but be very careful about this. You don't want to send a resume to a company with a different company name, or you don't want to send a resume to a company in one field saying you're interested in the other field. So you have to be very careful about that. So that's all for resumes. I'll definitely answer questions at the end. Next is cover letters. This will be a quick slide. So cover letters it's like a letter. It is a letter to a hiring manager or a company representative that you can attach with your resume. So last year when I was applying for internships and recruiting and doing different interviews, I would be emailing a lot of hiring managers, and they would say, okay, send us your resume. Every time they asked for my resume, I would also send them my cover letter, and I would say, like, you know, dear Medtronic representative, my name is Aarya Mecwan, and knowing what position I am applying for and what company I am wanting to work at, I will tailor my cover letter exactly to that. So I will just give them a introduction, a brief overview. This is why I want to work at this company. Next paragraph, I'll be talking about, these are my 2 big experiences that make me qualified for this role. On your cover letter, you don't want to talk about every experience you've had. You don't want to spend an entire paragraph on something you did 5 years ago. You want to be talking like about what you're doing currently and how you have this project where you learn these skills that can be applied to this new position. So that's what a cover letter should include, and it's more of a story. So I know a lot of people who have, a lot of my peers in the biomedical device industry will say, oh, I had this relative who had this disease, or who had this medical problem, or who had passed away for this reason. And because of that, I'm really passionate about healthcare, and I really want to create medical devices to solve this issue, or this is why I want to be a doctor in the long run after earning this degree. Or so things like that are really important, and this is where you can have a story and really make it personal. So this is also only 1 page, but you know, a lot of people will find this intimidating to write, but where I'll show you, there's also this template that you have. So it's really important. Even if they don't ask for a cover letter and they only ask for a resume, trust me, send a cover letter with the company name. You will stick out. It will make you look amazing, and like you put so much more effort. And it's even better if you know their name. You can say, dear so-and-so, and address them directly, and make it really personal like that. And you know, when hundreds of applicants are applying to a position, you really want to make a connection with whoever you're talking to. So cover letters can really, really help you. Okay, next, LinkedIn. So I'm sure most of you know what LinkedIn is. It's a professional networking and career development site where you can also search and apply for jobs. And my favorite part is you can get job postings emailed that are relevant to you. So, you know, LinkedIn already has your information. They know what you majored in. They know what your past experiences have been. They know where you're located. So you get job postings emailed straight to you that are completely curated just for you. So it helps with a lot of the searching. So you can just get those in your inbox. So I really appreciate that feature on LinkedIn. You can join groups that you're interested in. You can, like for example, if you're interested in cybersecurity, you can join that group and you can see updates on what everybody else is doing, or just learn more. You can follow companies. You can maintain relationships with your peers, professors, mentors. This is really important because you don't know when down the line it would be really beneficial to reach out to them or talk to them, or if you are trying to work for a specific company, then you see, oh, my colleague from a few years ago, they've worked at this company. Let me see if I can message them because we had a good relationship, and maybe they can put in a good word for me, or give me some advice, or give me a recommendation or something like that. So maintaining that professional network is the #1 way, in my opinion, to get a job. Like you can be the smartest person out there, but if you don't have a network, it's going to be so much harder to get those experiences. You can also do skill assessments. So say you know Python really well, you can actually, LinkedIn will give you a little quiz, like 10-question like quick quiz, and if you pass it, it'll say in your LinkedIn, this person is certified, they took this quiz, they're not lying, they truly do know how to use Python. So those skill assessments can come in handy. You can receive endorsements. If you and your colleague worked together on a project, you can go to their page and endorse them and say, this person really is good at this language, or this person really is good at product design, or something like that. And you can also upload your resume directly. So with your profile, it is very similar to your resume. You utilize the STAR method for your experiences. It's important to have an appropriate and professional profile picture. You don't want to have a selfie. You want to have a professional, nice headshot, as professional as possible, because those are the things that people really judge on first base. You want to have the heading is very important. You make sure to capitalize your name correctly, spell your name correctly, and then right in your header, you want to say like engineering student at so-and-so university, or intern at so-and-so company, or even if you're looking, you can even put in your bio, current student looking for internship in so-and-so field. So that shows hiring managers this person's ready to work and this is what this person is doing. So you want to really sell yourself in those few lines that you get in your header, or few words. You want to use your STAR method when discussing experiences, correct capitalization, and you also get a summary. And your summary can be longer on your LinkedIn because you have a lot more space. And something really important to note is within your network on LinkedIn, it's really important to connect with people that you know and people that you trust. Since LinkedIn is an extremely professional platform, you don't want to have people who may comment something inappropriate on your post or something like that. It's a completely professional platform, so make sure to only connect with people you respect, people who respect you, people who are good people to know in the professional world. And it's important to be very conservative and professional when managing your account and your social media, your presence online. So lastly, for LinkedIn, it has a great job search feature. It filters things for you based on salary, or if you hit more right over there, you can put your location, what company you're looking for, what skills you're looking for, what kind of compensation you're looking for, and it also tells you how many people have applied to that position. So I find that really helpful. So you kind of know what you're up against, and some positions have maybe under 10 applicants and some have literally thousands of applicants. So in those scenarios, it's really beneficial to have a strong resume, but this job search feature is not utilized as much as it should be, I think, on LinkedIn. Okay, next, informational interviews. I love informational interviews because this is a way for you to reach out to other people on LinkedIn. Even if you don't know them, you can request to connect with them with a note, and you can, if someone has your dream job and you really respect what they've done in their career, because profiles are usually public, it's okay to reach out to them and say, hi, my name is Aarya. I'm a senior studying biomedical engineering at Arizona State University. I noticed that you have a position in this company and I'm really, really interested in it, and I would be so appreciative if you could take some time out of your day and you could set up a 15 to 30-minute meeting, and I can just ask you some questions and ask for some advice. And people like that, people are usually really willing to help younger students that request them for help. So this is not something that happens as much as it should, but especially at Arizona State University, it's highly, highly encouraged, and it's a great way to gain some insights. When I was interviewing for a lot of different positions, I was setting up a lot of informational interviews with people that I didn't know, just asking like, what is your job like? Oh, you're in R&D, what is R&D like? Or, oh, you're in quality, what is quality like? Or you're in regulatory, what is that like? Or you're a front-end developer, or you do product design, and really asking, what steps did you take to get this position? What are your day-to-day tasks? Who is the ideal candidate for this role? What technical skills would you recommend for someone who has this role? And what's your favorite part of your job? What's your hardest part? So these things are equally as important. And just because just as you want to market yourself to the company and look like a good fit, you also want to make sure that that company and that career choice and that position is a good fit for you. So if you see, okay, I really don't like what this person's day-to-day tasks are, I don't think I would enjoy this, I don't think I would be very happy in this role, that's amazing that you know this information now. It's much better than getting to that position and realizing I really don't like what I'm doing here. So gaining as much insight as possible can never hurt you. So setting up informational interviews is a really incredible and I think underappreciated way of finding out more with your career, and especially in quarantine during this pandemic, this is an excellent way to learn more about different positions that are out there that you might be interested in. And it also shows your enthusiasm to learn and contribute, and you never know. Connecting with that person on LinkedIn could help you could certainly benefit you in the future. Okay, so I'm nearing the end of my presentation. These are a few links that I've included to build your skills. So I'm sure you must have heard of Coursera and Udemy. You can take coding classes, software classes, business classes, personal development classes. Most of them are free and some of them have a small fee, or you can just audit them and they're really well paced. And you can learn a lot and you can get certifications that you can put on your resume. So there's really no better time to do something like this. You can also create your own website. It's much better to code it from scratch. Obviously, for a lot of you who are computer science majors, that would be much more impressive. But for others who maybe don't want to code it, there's these two websites, Wix and Squarespace, where you have a template. So you can make a really nice website about you and create that online brand that's really yours. Wix is free, I know, and I believe for Squarespace there is a small fee. Okay, resources from ASU. So if you just Google Arizona State University Engineering Career Center, it gives you all of these resources, and actually I've helped to create a lot of this, me and the team that I'm on. This is the resume example for computer science majors or software related majors, for computer science engineering or computer science. And then this is for other types of engineering, civil, biomedical, electrical, mechanical, all that. This is a link to a summary statement. As I mentioned, your summary should be what year you're in, what type of engineer you are, what field you're looking for, what experience you have, what you're passionate about, what you hope to really do and contribute to the world. So this is a good way to talk about, this is a good structure for your summary. The action verbs list is also extremely important. You want to really have active language when you're talking about your experiences, your accomplishment statements, and then this is also a presentation to a technical resume. And this is also a cover letter example that I linked a few slides ago. So all these resources are completely free and available to you, and they work and they get people amazing jobs. And you have to believe that you truly do have the you are definitely a good candidate for a lot of these companies. You just need to know how to market yourself. And all of you are attending engineering school and you're learning really valuable skills, but what's the point if you don't know how to market yourself, or you don't know how to talk about those skills or explain those skills, or you don't know how to talk about what you did or show like I have learned all of these things. So I always tell people, like, if you're spending all these hours a week studying for your engineering courses, it's so useful to spend maybe an hour a month even just updating your resume or writing about an experience that really showcases what you've done. Because if you can have all these experiences, but if you don't have a strong resume, what's the point? How are you going to get yourself out there and earn a position? So that's why, in addition to your classes, internships, side projects are really, 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 really important. I know a lot of people who also come to me in their last year of university, and they say in the United States, the GPA is on a 4.0. So they'll say, I have a 4.0 GPA and I'm at the top of my class, but I'm not getting an interview with anyone, or I'm not getting an internship, or I'm not getting a job. And I'm saying, well, hundreds of other students took the same major as you and also scored really well. What are you doing to set yourself apart? Like, what experiences do you have on your resume that show I did so much more than take these 50 classes in the past 4 years? Because you have to remember, all of you are taking the exact same classes. And so it's really, really important to do extracurriculars or even side projects, something as simple as building your own skateboard or your own bicycle. That's engineering a tool like that. And that shows passion, that shows creativity, that shows enthusiasm. And that's something that employers can't force you to do. Employers can train you and they can make sure you have the necessary skills, but they can't force you to be excited about engineering or excited about their company. So taking the time to put this on your resume and make sure you have those experiences for your resume is extremely, extremely, extremely valuable. I know that a few years ago, with me and a bunch of my colleagues at Arizona State, we all knew that Medtronic was the big dream company to get for biomedical engineering. It's like, we call it like, it's our Google or our, Apple. It's the really big it company for biomedical engineering. And a lot of my friends had even higher GPAs than I did. But I was the one who had more extracurriculars, and I was the one who still believed, I can do this. And I had a really good resume that I put together. And I was the one who ended up getting the interview and eventually got the position, even though they certainly had higher GPAs than me. So that, I think, is really telling of what your experience is and what your ability to communicate and reach out to people can get you. Sending out an email after an interview saying, thank you for interviewing me. I learned so much no matter what. I really appreciate this, and I'm so excited for the possibility of working with you and your company. Sending a small email like that, or reaching out to someone on LinkedIn, or sending a cover letter along with your resume, or stating in your resume specifically, I want to work at this company, this is my passion. Things like that can go a really, really long way when a manager is looking at hundreds, maybe hundreds or even thousands of applicants. So all this time, putting towards resumes and cover letters, it may seem like meticulous, and it's not the most fun thing for a lot of people, and a lot of people dread doing it. Certainly I can see why, but it can really, really benefit you in the long run, and it can really kick off your career in an amazing way. And all of you are amazing students with amazing skills. And so, just do yourself a big favor and showcase that and show it to employees and prove that you are a great candidate and a great employee in their company. Okay. Thank you for listening. I really appreciate it. I hope you learned some things or a lot of things, and I'm open to as many questions. I think that was the time.
Yeah, so everybody can start chatting or raise your hand. We will unmute you. You can ask questions now. Aarya, if you don't mind, you can stop sharing the...
Okay.
Okay. We're waiting for questions from participants. You can type it in the chat or you can ask. Tanvir ma'am, do we want to unmute so that they can ask?
Yeah, definitely we can do, ma'am.
Yep.
Done.
I was muted. Those who want to ask questions, you can unmute yourself and ask directly questions. Shall I read out the question, Aarya?
Yes, sure.
Does it? Yeah.
Sorry, ma'am. One hand was raised by some student.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Let me read this question and that person can unmute and ask the question. Does it really has to be this important to join an internship? Because in current situation, it's kind of difficult, Aarya.
Okay, yes, it is certainly very difficult in this situation. I know a lot of people also got internships and they got canceled because they couldn't move to that location. So what I always tell people is, even if it's too late to start looking for an internship for, the current season, what you can do is work on your resume or do a side project. So this will set you up for getting that internship next summer or next year or, the next gap you have. it's never too early to start preparing for the next season of doing all this, even though it's definitely understandable that in this in this time period, it is definitely very difficult, but there are a lot of things you can do in your time, like doing your courses online or working on your resume or doing personal projects and things like that. You can still make use of your time and still show employers that you are keeping yourself productive and like furthering your growth during this time, even though it's much less feasible to get an internship.
So
Ayush,
your question is answered?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, Aarya. Yeah.
Yes, of course.
Appreciate your slides.
Okay.
Thank you.
The next question is career objective necessary in resume?
Okay, I would say absolutely necessary. Yes, that is where you can distinguish yourself. You know, you're not a robot. You know, you have passion. There's a reason you joined a specific field. For me, for example, I studying biomedical engineering. I really wanted to work on medical devices, and so I said that I was really interested in healthcare and equal healthcare and cost-efficient healthcare. And quality healthcare and innovation in healthcare. So saying that in my objective, I think really helped. And I have talked to many employers as a part of the Career Center, and they always say when they're looking at a resume, they want to know, why do you care so much about this job? Why would they hire you over someone else who acts like they're caring more? So saying your objective is really important. And even if you are not sure, I completely understand that when you're younger, you might not know. Like if you're computer science, for example, there's so many fields that you can be a part of, and you don't know what you want to do, and you want to really experiment and try it out. You can be a little broader in your objective statement, but having one, just saying, no, this is my major, my year, the little experience I do have, and this is what I hope to do, and the fields I hope to join, that's really important.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Vishal Tanna, you can unmute yourself.
Yes. How necessary are those free certified courses available online? Is it necessary to show that in our resume?
It's not necessary and not required, but if you did take the time to learn Python or learn a specific course or even a business development course, those can just be something extra to add on your resume. So if you have nothing better to do, that would be a great way to make yourself productive. But it is by no means required. A lot of people learn all their skills from their projects, or they're involved in internships, or a lot of other things. So it depends on your situation and what you have been spending time on already.
The next question is from Naomi. What is an applicant tracking system, ATS, and how will that change or affect my resume?
I am not too sure about applicant tracking systems, but I do know, for example, for really prestigious companies, when you apply online and there are thousands and thousands of resumes, the way they filter out those resumes, why would they look at thousands of resumes when they can just put in a filter saying, we're only looking for people who have a CGPA of 8 and above or 9 and above. There's no reason they should spend all that time looking at people with lower scores. So in that kind of scenario, being in a system where there are thousands of applicants or hundreds of applicants, you really want to make sure you have a really strong resume and really high scores with the applicant, or with those kinds of systems where you have an online resume. That's why it's infinitely more important to reach out to a hiring manager directly, or reach out to anybody in the company directly. And so it puts a face to the paper, or it puts a face to the name, and that's a personal connection. So that's a good way to make yourself noticed when there are hundreds or thousands of applicants, by reaching out to someone directly, talking about them, getting them to like you and see potential in you, and they are the ones who can bring your resume to the top and make sure it is actually seen by someone instead of just discounted because your numbers aren't high enough or you don't have the search filter. What a lot of companies do is in their job description, they'll have a list of skills. They'll say like, we want this person to have MATLAB, SolidWorks. They want to need to know how to create human-centered design. So those kinds of keywords you can put in your resume to also, you want to still show up for every single search. You want to make sure you have as many factors as possible when you have a system that has that many resumes in it. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it did. Thank you.
We have Jay Joshi, and he wants to add something to this question. Jay?
Am I audible to you?
Yes.
So ETS is a system which is used by the HR in the big tech companies like Google, Facebook. I would say nowadays most of all the companies are using that system, because HR is at the end. HR is a human, and they can't filter like thousands of applications in a day. But they are, and in a day, I would say not in a day, but on an hour basis, they are receiving thousands of applications. And to filter out those applications based on their job position requirements, they just enter the keywords which matches with the resume, and in that way your resume gets filtered out.
Yes.
Thank you, Jay.
And oftentimes also by GPA, and also
absolutely
it makes a difference to apply multiple times. So I actually have a friend who applied online at NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and everybody was wondering how she got that internship because she had never, usually when people get such a prestigious internship, they have a connection, but she had a full GPA and she applied every year for multiple years. So the system really noticed this. So things like that, even if you can't get that connection or that contact, doing things like that, like having every keyword, having space on your resume, having Mars rover, or, anything like that, that can also go a really long way.
Okay, we have next question from one of the faculty. Any credit is given to online course in resume?
Certainly. Even if it never hurts to be taking more courses online in addition to your learning. I know even at a company, like at my internship, for example, there's a lot of on-the-job training, and that involves doing sometimes coding classes or business classes or different things like that. So even when you do have a job, like in engineering, you never stop learning, and you never stop learning new skills. And there's always new coding languages, or there's always new techniques of doing things, or there's always new applications that you can learn and become better at. So those are always going to be valuable to add, no matter what. I wouldn't say it's a complete requirement. I got an internship without having any sort of like on the side certifications, but especially in a time like this can just be even more valuable. And there are a lot of self-taught computer scientists out there, or a lot of coding engineers out there. So those can just add to your resume, but by no means are they, absolutely required. They're just a bonus.
Okay, next question. Sir, did that, your question is answered, sir? You can say yes in the chat or no in the chat. In the meantime, I'll take the next question from Shlok. How much important is it to mention your desired job in resume?
Do you mean like your dream job, or the job that you're the position that you're applying for?
Shlok, you can unmute yourself and answer that question.
It's like if it's something like there is a place I am applying for, but there is other place also in the same company, but I wish to apply for that, but it's not open right now. So can I mention that, or it would be relevant?
So if the position isn't open, I would just apply to the position that is open and state that you want the position that is open, and you can talk to the manager or HR or anyone else talking about that position that you want that isn't open. The good thing is when you're in a company already, usually it's really easy to move around. And usually if you're qualified to be a part of that company in the first place, like they usually are, they want to contribute to your growth. And if there's another division or another site or another part of engineering that you really want to work on, they're usually like willing to help you get there. And it is important to communicate with your managers, like, you know, where you want to go and what your dream job is. And, you know, do you want to become a manager from here, or do you want to become senior manager, or do you want to learn these different skills, things like that. It definitely is really important to communicate those. However, if that position isn't open, definitely like apply for the position that is open and focus on getting that position. And then if you do get that position, you can try to jump into the other position. I would say after you establish yourself at the company, you can eventually work to take that role. But yeah, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you so much.
We have a question from enrollment number 14. Yes, can we ask questions regarding further studies about university? Yeah, you can ask. If she has an answer, she will give you. Please ask. Unmute yourself and ask. Enrollment number 14. Enrollment number 14, please unmute.
Yes, ma'am. Yes. So actually, I was planning for my master's in US. So I was preparing for my GRE from last 6 months. So now looking at the current scenario and Trump administration trying to change rules, should I plan my studies as I was planning for my 2021 fall admission, or should I wait for a year and gain some work experience and then try for 2022?
So I believe the ban on like international travel has been taken off. So I believe international students are still currently allowed to come into the US to study, even if they don't have in-person classes. But I would say that definitely if you are able to spend the year working and gaining experience, that is extremely important, and that will still be very beneficial when getting your master's. So worst case is doing nothing, and I definitely do not recommend that. So if you can find an experience, that's definitely, I would say, the way to go. And with engineering courses in the US, you can definitely learn a lot online, but I think the in-person component is invaluable. So perhaps, you know, if you're paying for a really expensive education, it doesn't hurt to you know, see if in-person would be a possibility sooner. And if working isn't an option, then you can still definitely like learn a lot from those online classes at the university in the US still. Does that answer your question?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Anyone else having any questions? You can ask or type.
Oh, someone asked me a question privately saying, do I have any specific remark for someone who's less qualified but skilled for the mentioned job profile? Less qualified but skilled. Okay, so when you are younger and when you have less experience, you are definitely less qualified, but jobs know that. So people know, even coming out of engineering, a lot of times, at least in the US, like even at my own company, people say, you're not going to utilize that much from what you learned at school. The importance of school is proving like you can get your grades and you can learn really quickly and you can adapt and you can get those good grades and learn whatever's being taught to you. But, you know, not necessarily are you going to use every single equation or every single, you know, thing you've learned, because there's a lot of training on the job. So even if you are, even if you think yourself to be less qualified but still very skilled, that is extremely important. You just want to prove to the employer that you're fast at learning. You know, you can learn whatever it is that they show you, even if you are not doing exactly, even if you don't have experience in exactly what that position is. Someone else asked me privately, Anuj, how to approach your first interview and what are some tips regarding your interview? Okay, that's a great question. So depending on if it's a phone interview or an in-person interview, I mean, either way, you want to be extremely knowledgeable about the company. So every company has a mission statement. So what I do is I learn the mission statement. I know Medtronic's mission statement is to alleviate pain and extend life and have a great quality of healthcare. So when I was interviewing with my company, I said this a lot, and I said, your values completely align with my values, and that's why I want to work at this company. So if you can make yourself seem like the perfect fit for that company already, you already have you have such a leg up. You don't want to be seeming like, you know, some timid person interviewing, you know, who doesn't really even fit in the company. You want to be, you know, confident, and you want to be really certain in your skills and your experience, and you want to show them that you're enthusiastic, because that's one thing that employers can't teach you. No one can force you to be enthusiastic about their company. So I remember when I was interviewing, I was smiling all the time. I was acting super happy. I literally told them, I told them, this has been my dream job for all of my engineering career. I'm so excited to have gotten here. And actually, when I was in my second year, I had gotten an interview. I had gotten into the first round, and then I didn't make it to the second round. So I emailed them asking, why didn't I make it to the second round? I really thought I was going to go on. And they emailed me back saying, you were a great candidate, but you didn't have enough technical knowledge. So I was like, okay. So third year, I see them again at the career fair, and I walk up to them and I said, you were the person that interviewed me last year, and you said I didn't have enough technical knowledge, but I have done X, Y, Z over the past year to get technical knowledge, and I'm going to interview for you. And I did end up getting that position. So being confident, knowing all your experiences, you know, you can't possibly know everything. You won't be doing exactly what they're working on, but showing that you know the experiences that you've worked on really well, and you know, they'll ask you really detailed questions about it. That will be really, really helpful. Knowing what experiences you're going to talk about. A lot of interviews have really popular questions such as, what is a time that you adapted in a situation? And a lot of these can be like engineering related, but they don't always have to be. One answer that I use a lot, which isn't engineering related, is to this question. So people will ask, what's a time a situation didn't go well and you had to adapt immediately? And I actually talk about my experience working as a barista, making coffee in a coffee shop. And I tell them a story about how the first day I'm working at this coffee shop, I have no training. I don't know how to make coffee. I don't know how to make any drinks. And it's 8 a.m. on a Monday morning. And then my manager leaves. And all of a sudden, there are all these men and women who are trying to get their coffee for the day and trying to go to work. And I am just, it was my day one of training. I literally did not know how to make coffee. And all of a sudden, the only person who was there is the cook, and she only speaks Spanish. So now I'm here trying to make coffee for all these people trying to go to work. And I told them, like, in that second, I had to teach myself how to make coffee. And I learned, okay, a latte, a cappuccino, a frappuccino is just a formula. You have your milk, you have your ice, and then you have your syrup. And then, you know, everything is proportionate to size, everything like that. So I always tell that story, even though it's not engineering related, because I think it's a little funny. And I think it definitely gets my point across really well, that I, you know, learned how to make all those drinks in 10 minutes and make all those customers happy, you know, before starting their day at work. So having those experiences memorized, you know, those key experiences you talk about in every interview are really important, and that's the way I think I've succeeded in my interviews. At the end of the interview, they also ask a question, do you have any questions for me? And a lot of people say, no, I don't have any questions for you, but that's also really wrong. You should always ask, what are your day-to-day tasks? What did you get to do in this position? Do you have any advice for me? What does the ideal candidate look like? What technical skills are most important? What's the hardest part about your job? What's your favorite thing? Those kinds of questions. Asking them questions really shows that you did your research and that you want to really know. And a good question is also asking, like, what is the current need in this company? What are you looking for in interns? Like, what is the direction that the company is growing? Different things like that. So at the end of the interview, when they say, do you have any questions for me? Never say, no, I don't have any questions. Okay, I'm getting some more private questions. So yeah, Anuj, I hope that answered your question on how to approach a first interview. Okay. What is your biggest weakness in interview? I don't know this. I don't have a really great answer for this. I know a lot of people say perfectionism, which I suppose is a terrible answer because it's so overused. If you are acing the interview and you know you're doing well, you can make a joke and say, I'm bad at interviews, and that can be funny because only if you're doing so well. But with your biggest weaknesses, sometimes, you can be honest. You can say, you can turn it into a positive. Like you can say, sometimes it takes longer for me to learn, but when I learn it, I know it really well. I know it like the back of my hand. So sometimes even if you are honest about your weakness, you can spin it into how it's a really good thing or how you combat it. I know someone would say, I'm a really bad procrastinator. And, but then he counteracted that by saying, because I know I'm a bad procrastinator, I start everything as soon as possible and I finish it as soon as possible because I know that this is a problem that I have and this is how I have counteracted that. So sometimes you can be honest, just make sure you can spin it into something that's positive. Okay, someone asked me, according to your personal view, what is the best answer for the interview question, why should I hire you? So I'll maintain that enthusiasm and passion is something that cannot be forced. That is something that the manager they can never force you to be passionate about their company or anything like that. So I think showing that passion and enthusiasm, you can prove that, you should be hired because you have a willing to learn, you're curious, you're eager, you care about the work that you're doing, you're hardworking. And employees that care about the company, employees that know the company's mission statement and know what they're working towards are going to be employees who execute a lot better and perform a lot better. So I would say your personality is a really big part of it, like showing them how you're a good learner and you're really excited, and so you want to learn more and you want to contribute to the company and learn from the company and things like that. Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
I want to just make a small announcement to the participants. The announcement is that after 10 minutes, we will be sharing the feedback link. So don't leave, fill the feedback link for the third day so that we can issue you e-certificate. So that is why, and we have a lot of participants that are actively asking questions. We are happy about it. So we don't want to leave you, and you will get your feedback link after 10 minutes. Okay. Announcement is over.
Thank you. Something that you can also do is you can easily Google behavioral questions. That's available on Glassdoor. That's available on just a lot of different forums on Google. So just look up commonly asked behavioral questions, and there's a bunch of them that come up, and you'll see the common one that's, tell me about yourself. What's your biggest weakness? What's the situation which you adapted? Tell me about a time that you work in a team. Different ones like that. Having answers like on deck is extremely important. Even if for any company, a lot of companies have specific questions. A lot of companies want more competitive candidates. So finding out those differences, a lot of people share online how their interview experience went. So the good thing is, we have access to that. And then when it comes to technical questions, a lot of those rely on your resume. So there are millions of technical questions and a manager can ask you, but what he will probably ask you is stuff on your own resume. So I actually had someone ask me during an interview to draw out the 3 physical prototypes I was choosing from in a project that I had done over a year prior. And I was so scared because I didn't know that they would ever ask me to physically draw out the prototypes for this project I was building from over 12 months ago. So that experience really taught me, know your resume like it's the back of your hand. Anything that you say on your resume, be sure you can answer every single question. Like if you made a PowerPoint about that project, go review it, go review your notes, go talk to other teams and make sure you knew exactly how that project was going, and everything you say, you truly have a good understanding of it, because those are the things that managers are completely allowed to ask you, and that's most likely what your technical questions will be. Unless you're computer science and then you have your coding interviews. Sure. Very stressful.
Jay, you can share it by yourself. Jay Joshi, you can share it by yourself. Any more questions coming from the participants? Okay. Any private questions, Aarya?
No,